Stop sinning. Stop sinning. You know, when we were looking at Genesis, we saw the population of mankind was exploding, right, before the flood. And we said that the population at the time was probably 10 to 12 billion people. Really a lot of people during that time. But the thing there is, we notice as the population was expanding and growing, sin was expanding and growing. I mean, everybody was sinning left and right. In fact, in Genesis chapter 6, it came to the point that the sons of God married the daughters of men. And with that, with the utter corruption that was going on at that time, God said, enough is enough. I will wipe out mankind from the face of the earth. And we will only have Noah and his wife and his 3 kids and their wives. So there, God brought in the flood. We saw for a year and 11 days Noah was in the Noah was in the ark. Eventually, God remembered, and when He remembered, He made the rain stop and the water receded, and Noah stepped out of the ark. And there, out of gratitude, Noah worshipped God. He worshipped Him in a manner that was very extravagant. He didn't just kill one animal, He killed all the clean animals and all the clean birds, and made a huge worship to God out of gratitude. No one told him to make that much of a sacrifice, especially with limited resources. But he couldn't help. He couldn't constrain. He couldn't hold back the love and the thankfulness that he had towards God. The thing here is this. When Noah stepped in the ark, and the wife and the kids, guess who was with them? Sin was with them. And when Noah stepped out of the ark, sin stepped out of the ark also. It's as if Noah and his family was a disease carrier. Within them, they had the sickness of sin. Because Noah and the wife and the whole family are sinners. And it's just a matter of time where this ugly head of sin will show up. You know, you would think that after this terrible punishment that God did to mankind because of their sin, you would think that Noah and the people would learn. They would not sin as much anymore. That eventually they would adhere to the path of righteousness. But as we see today, as we will see today, sadly that's not the case. Despite that tremendous punishment, man, Noah, his sons, were sinning back again. And that's the plight of man. That's the plight of man, and that's the plight of mankind, and that is our plight. It seems to be that we can't get away from the shackles of sin. The struggles that we had 10 years ago is still the struggles that we have today. The hate we have 10 years ago is still the hate we have today. Why is that so? You know, I remember my kids when they were young. They're still young though. But when they were younger, in the morning I would talk to them. They did something, they didn't do well in school. Not only did they do well, they played. They played instead of studying. I would see the grades from the home school teacher. I would talk to my child. And if warranted, I would belt them. And I said, "Oh, anak, I hope today you study." After the belt, trust me, they would swear that they will study. They would swear they will focus. They would swear everything. Guess what? When I get home from work, that same day, they did not study again. Then I have to talk. So, anak, what's wrong? In fact, one time what I did is, it became such a habit that I would video. O sige make your promise na. Thank you. Make your promise na in front of the video. Para you won't forget. But, you know, again, when I got home, he did the same thing. He didn't study. He just played. He quarreled. I mean, the curse of man. And in some way, we can relate to that. Because for some reason, we still struggle, unfortunately for some of us, with the very same sin. As if we were married to it. As if we need it in our life. And honestly, it's a deception. It's totally a deception of the devil. Our passage starts in Genesis chapter 9, and it says, "Now the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham was the father of Canaan. And these were the sons of Noah. And from this the whole earth was populated." By the way, so I've been sick for the last 2 weeks. The first week, I was literally bedridden. The productive thing there is I learned to use PowerPoint. I don't want to be unproductive. So I said, okay, we'll try PowerPoint. And I tried to learn PowerPoint. So that's why we're kind of doing some PowerPoints here. So we saw the storm has passed. And Noah, you know, he was a carpenter, right? He was a carpenter for 100 years. And during that time, he became a preacher of righteousness. After becoming a preacher, a carpenter, he became also a preacher. After becoming a preacher, he became what? A sailor. For 1 year and 11 days. Then eventually, he became what? A farmer. Noah began farming and planting a vineyard. You know, the idea here in this verse is that it's a beginning. It's a new start, Noah. You have a clean slate. There's no baggage that you have to carry. There's no issues that's outstanding. Let's reset. Let's reboot this relationship. And here Noah began farming and planting a vineyard. Again, as Noah started his new path with God, you will notice something eerily, which I've referenced in the past. It's almost like Eden. Adam, God was a gardener too. God said, you are to what? Cultivate and keep it. And here we see Noah becoming what? A gardener, a farmer too, as he restarts the journey of mankind. Verse 21. He drank of the wine and became drunk and covered himself inside the tent. You know, when Noah was going through a hard time, which was the storm, the biggest storm of his life, Noah was walking with God. Noah was doing all right. But the thing is, when he settled down, when he was comfortable already with his life, when he was moving on already, and he started farming and going to the routines of his life, guess what happened? He fell into sin. And the funny thing here is, he fell in the sin that was prevalent during the time before the flood. Look at this. Look at Matthew. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and they were drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. The vines was growing, job was fine, life is in an automatic mode. And all of a sudden, we put our guards down. Sometimes, sabi nga, one of the best way to promote Christianity is to persecute Christianity. Then people will bind together and they will fight a common enemy. But when everything is seeming fine in our life, we put our guards down and we become complacent. Look at this. Therefore, let him who thinks he stands take heed that he does not fall. When you think that you are spiritually strong, guess what? You are most vulnerable. We should never think that I have arrived in the pinnacle of my Christian walk. We should never think that my faith is strong enough that I can go in the lion's den, that I can choose to go there and fight it head on with my strength. Let him who thinks he stands takes heed that he does not fall. 2 Corinthians says, therefore, I am well content with weakness, with insult, with distress, with persecution, with difficulties, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. When I am what? Weak. The word weak there means when I am lacking, when I am deficient, when my capabilities are short. When I reflect in my life and I realize, Lord, I can't do this on my own, guess what? Then you are the strongest. Then you are most qualified. Sabi nga nila eh, the preacher that is most qualified to preach is the one who thinks he's not. Because then he has to rely on God alone.